What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by MWA or Monsters with Attitude, the Raw Attitude. I am your host, Eric, alongside me with Joe and Michael. Guys, thank you for joining me. We have a very special guest tonight, and I am excited to talk to him.
Oh, me too. Big fan of our guest today.
One of the best. Sorry. I know we're all so excited. We're chomping at the bit. I think it's one of, arguably, I think one of the best artists in the industry today. And I think I'd make the argument with that any day of the week till I'm blue in the face. He's fantastic, and we all own pieces of his art, and we're honored, super excited.
Yeah. I mean, we were just kind of discussing backstage and everything like that, and we're just kind of getting out a little bit here. So, but without further ado, let's bring in our guest, Mr. Strong Stuff himself, Tom Whalen. Thank you for coming aboard, sir. Appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that wonderful intro. It feels really good to know that the stuff that I create in this underground studio gets out there and does in fact get seen and hung up. So I appreciate it.
It does. Absolutely, it does.
Yes. I love your setup too with like the rotating rack of comics. I love that right there. Like that's great.
I was
just noticing that too. That's pretty cool.
That was a big part of why I do what I do now, was getting into comics at a super young age. And when I saw these racks going back into production for a little bit, I had to have one.
Oh, that's
awesome. Do you remember the first comic you ever purchased, or the first comic you ever read?
I don't, but it's definitely got to be like mid '80s Spider-Man.
Okay.
Something in that range. Those are the ones that stick out to me most as like very formative reading, and a lot of G.I. Joe from that era.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Transformers.
Of course, yeah. Yep.
Of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Are you Marvel, DC? Are you like one side, or are you just kind of everything?
I mean, if I had to lean one way, for sure, Marvel.
Okay.
Right. Okay. It's just where my tastes lie, I guess.
Yep. I agree. Yeah.
I just have all three of you were alive in the 80s?
86.
85.
74. So I got I got 70s and 80s.
I'm kidding. I was born in 88. I just always give them a hard time that they're so much older than me.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it kind of backfired. So
I would rather be slightly older than Joe than actually look old like Joe.
Oh my gosh. All right, yeah, let's get this kicked off and everything. So to kind of start things off, I kind of want to look at your backstory, your history of kind of getting into art and everything. How did that kind of come about? What was your kind of inspiration? And did you know you wanted to do this, for your career?
It's funny you set that up with the comment about the spinner rack, because I always point back to my grandmother owned a candy shop, and in the back of the store there was a spinner rack, and I would sit there for countless hours just reading and taking the books against my dad's better wishes, because it was his mom and that was her stock, and he's like, no, just read them and leave them here. But I took them, and if I had to point back to anything, it was those years when I felt like I first got inspired artistically, and then I just took to starting to trying to figure out how to draw and build superhero characters of my own, and really never stopped.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you have a very unique, interesting kind of style that you do. How did that come about? Like, did you start that way, or did you like evolve in that kind of form?
Probably the majority of that evolution did happen in college. So I went in carrying through with the trajectory of being a comic book artist. I went in hell-bent on doing sequential art and comics, and I went to a state school that had a strong art program, and it was probably like sophomore year where I saw like other kids around me were like just phenomenally gifted pen and ink or pencil or graphite, and I was like, I just felt like I wasn't, I didn't have nearly the chops that they did. And a professor suggested I try to take my work in a more graphic style, and it really opened up a whole lot. And I really balanced design and illustration for the majority of my college career, and feel most comfortable when I'm combining the two. I do consider myself an illustrator, but there's so much design in what I do that I think that has kind of pushed me in the direction of my style.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really neat. Is there a name for your style per se, or is it you just kind of put your own kind of spin on it?
Yeah, some people have called it like modern vintage because it has definitely. I don't use a lot of key lines, a lot of heavy line. It's just color on color, and paying a whole lot of attention to unique color schemes. That's probably the best thing I've heard. I don't necessarily have a name for it though.
Gotcha.
I think that's what makes your artwork stand out from a lot of the other stuff that's out there. Is the fact that you find really interesting ways to use color, like the Ghidorah picture, the Ghidorah poster that I have behind me is a good example of that, because it's the purples and the oranges and the blues and the blacks that just really make like these, and the Biollante poster in front of me too, just that makes the colors are what make it really just pop.
Right.
And you find really interesting ways to use color theory.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I also take pride in, like, if you would break that Ghidorah poster down and like just make whatever 7 colors or 6 color, like just little blocks, you line that up. They're just the color blocks. And you would look at them, you're like, this doesn't feel like it could be a Godzilla poster. But then, I like trying to apply different, like out of the box, so to speak, color schemes to things, and just having them feel natural when you look at them. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be a blacklight poster. It just feels like it reads as what it's supposed to read as.
It reminds yours. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to ask, do you have like the colors in mind when you're drawing, or do you draw it and then try like, black and red and orange and blue and just go through a bunch of different things before you settle it, or are you kind of already focused in there when you begin drawing?
I probably have a pretty good idea when I jump in of where at least a couple of the anchor colors are going to be. And I don't do a whole lot of pencil work. I'll just jump into Illustrator and start blocking out really quickly. And that lets me, the colors evolve throughout the entire job. So I'll always be like tweaking, putting some more orange in the yellow and some like, adding and subtracting values to colors as I'm working through. So it gives me the entire project to figure out color, as opposed to like trying to do it in one portion of the project.
That's really neat. So I see your display back there and a lot of great stuff and everything. Obviously, you're a Godzilla fan, kind of like what we are. I kind of always have to ask this question because, especially never interviewing you or really talking in depth with you. How did you become a fan to Godzilla? Like, how did you get first into it?
That's another pretty easy callback for me. I lived on the side of a mountain, basically. So we did not have cable until I was in high school. So my aunt would record. She had a VCR, like the first one in the family with a VCR.
Yeah.
Recorded all of the old Godzilla films for me off of, I guess,
wow.
HBO they were on, and I had video cassettes of them. And Godzilla's Revenge and Godzilla vs. Megalon were like heavy rotation. So those two are super special to me. But that's really where I point back to as being introduced to it. And there was, you'd see as back at that early 80s era, there was so little product out there. So anytime I would see Godzilla, I'd like flip out because it was so rare to see stuff. We're living in like golden age right now of merchandise
stuff.
Yeah. We say that all the time. It is like a golden age to be a Godzilla or even kaiju fan in general. Yeah.
The only thing I can remember having as a kid was it was a little rubber bendy came on a card, like a blister, a blister on a card, and it was terrible. Like the eyes were. I'm sure that somebody knows exactly what that was, but that's the only like Godzilla merchandise I could find. And there was I remember in kindergarten, I must have been pretty hopped up already on it, and there was an activity book that I bought at the book fair for the Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
That's cool.
Yeah, it was like I remember it being like digest size. I should try to hunt that down. Actually, that's something I haven't looked up.
That's oh my gosh, yeah, that would be such a sentimental and nostalgic thing for yourself. It's just like, oh my god, this is right back to my childhood. That would be great.
And I remember it ended tragically because I had a friend over and they wanted to like fill out. It was like puzzles, like crosswords, and like connect the dots and stuff. And they wanted to do a couple pages, and I was like super like I let them do it begrudgingly. And I can remember like instructing them how they were supposed to fill out connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
My mom must have thought I was like not being kind, so she took the book away, and I never saw it again. So, I got punished, and she would be heartbroken if she ever heard that now. But she was just parent guiding, how kids interact. But I never saw it again, so that's another reason to hunt that down.
And that's honestly the same way I am. Like any kind of paper product of Godzilla that I get, if it's coloring books or anything, I mean, I have old the Velvet posters that they came out, printed off pieces of paper online. That just stuff that I just can't get myself to color because I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, right. Because it's like if it wasn't colored of the time, it needs to be preserved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I completely get what you're what you're feeling.
I have some old Billiken kits that are assembled but not painted, and they'd look 1,000 times better if I got them painted. But I can't. In my mind, I'm like, well, no, they came that way. They must stay that way. And my wife is always telling me, she's like, go like spend the $100 or $200 and go down the street and have somebody paint them up for you or something. And I'm like, I can't,
Right. It has to, at a certain point, it just goes in the archive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Just like those old blacklight posters from high school.
Yeah.
They just go in the
right.
Oh my goodness gracious. Before we jump into this. So before we jump into that, so you were talking about All Monsters Attack and Godzilla vs. Megalon. They're very sentimental to you. I think I saw you comment on a post that All Monsters Attack is actually your favorite Godzilla movie.
Did I say that? Put it this way, I will defend it. I love that movie so much. I don't know that it's my favorite, but it's definitely up there for nostalgia reasons.
Yeah.
And you said also that Gabra like scared the crap out of you.
Gabra really did, yeah. I guess the bully aspect and the I don't know. It's just that, and there's such a weird movie, and the size shifting, and I don't know, something about it like really got under my skin as a kid, and the Gabra being such a jerk is just wonderful.
So what is like your favorite era or like Godzilla suit? Like which one do you really gravitate to?
I always liked the King Goji from Godzilla Kong. That was, if I had to just off the top of my head name one. I love the Showa era.
Okay.
I put it this way. There's hardly any, maybe none of the Godzilla movies that I can't watch. Like I love them all for different reasons. And I can put my arms around the entire thing and find some joy in any of them.
Oh, yeah. Dope Pope has a comment. Tom, your art lies beautiful. To me, it's almost like propaganda style, almost something very uplifting and bright future.
Oh, that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We just had Dope Pope on last week, actually. He's another fellow artist designer who's fantastic.
Go back and watch that episode.
Have you guys this is totally not in the scheme of things. Sorry, boys, I'm jumping in here. Have you and Dope Pope ever collaborated together?
No, I've never even met him. I don't know. I don't know actually even where. We've talked online a little bit.
Okay.
But I'm not sure where he lives, where his home base is.
That would be one of like that Back to the Future meme where it's like, shut up and take my money. That would be, you could pretty much set your price and I would be writing you guys a check.
Oh my goodness.
Just saying, just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out.
Noted. I'll write it down.
All right,
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
I'm only, I'm not too far away. I'm in like southeastern Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Like 2.5 hours. So that's awesome.
What part of Pennsylvania? What part of Pennsylvania, Tom?
I was Philly suburbs and now I'm Lancaster. So
Lancaster. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not too terribly far from me because I'm in the Huntington, West Virginia area. So you're not too terribly far away.
My family went on vacation to what's the town with the springs in it where Washington's bathtub is?
Oh God, the Devil's Springs or the Devil's. You're talking about the Devil's Bathtub.
Yeah.
White Sulphur. You talking about White Sulphur Springs? Maybe.
No. If it comes to me, I'll just blurt it out during the.
No, it's fine. If it comes to you, just blurt it out and say, "Oh yeah, that place," and I live here.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, we went through West Virginia. I didn't realize how close we were.
Yeah.
So yeah, so jumping right into this is some of your rough drafts and final product that you were kind enough to send me some examples and stuff like that, which is really great. On the top of all the pictures is the rough, and then the bottom is the final. Especially the Mothra one. So you went from like the old traditional Mothra, and then kind of changed her up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. That was for the Mondo statue that came out, and I think the reason that she has the 60s wings on her, the Showa wings, I think I had that built for another project. So just to get the concept approved, I just quickly, because the wings took forever to render.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that was the reason that we just quickly mocked it in. We got approval from Toho, and then when I went back and did the final render, we made it more the Millennium era.
Oh, right.
The Mothra posters have a strong resonance of like Rebirth of Mothra. Was there any kind of inspiration there with some of those?
Which posters do you mean?
Sorry, the middle two, the one that just has the Mothra.
That was based on Tokyo SOS, which I guess is that the same Mothra from the Rebirth movies? I'm not familiar with the Rebirth. Like I've seen the first two, but I can't remember if the design is the same.
So no, the design isn't. I just meant there's a poster for Rebirth of Mothra that is similar, where Mothra's coming over the Earth, and that's what it always just reminded me of. I guess.
No, there was no direction specifically for that. This was the challenge on these was so that's a wrap for a box. So to get enough width on like a scene to make it wrap around three sides of a box was really what drove that design.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So Tom, whenever when companies like Mondo or Ghost X Ghost or others come to you, do they leave it completely up to your discretion, or do they give you direction to what they're actually?
The Mondo stuff has been there was very little direction in that. They were actually letting me just pick whatever film I wanted. I would name 2 or 3 films. They're like, all right, let's do these 2 next. Yeah. The only direction with Ghost X Ghost was Brock wanted to have that poster on a black background to kind of set it apart from Mondo stuff. He's like, let's try, which was a cool design challenge for me because I'm so used to designing with white with negative space.
Yeah,
right.
The negative space on there is still negative space, but it's I don't know, the black background just gives that poster a separate feel. Same with the Godzilla X Kong that I just did, kind of fits in that vein.
Yeah.
And here's 2 other examples that you were kind enough to send for the Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 and the new product from Mondo, the All Monsters Attack Safubi set box art, which is fantastic. I mean, I'm not the biggest AMA movie lover. I'm not afraid to admit that, but like I'm still gonna buy the collectibles because they look great. And I'm a sucker for boxes. Like I always collect boxes. If I buy from a personal seller, I always try to make sure that I grab the box because I mean the box also tells a story and somebody did a lot of work and effort into making that box appealing to somebody. And your stuff is just no different.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's a huge compliment. I have a lot of toys, and I made the decision years ago to like purge the boxes, but there's still a few that I just cannot get rid of, and I hope I cause that same problem, that same dilemma.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ultimate goal is to like cause that angst of whether to get rid of the box or not. And it's funny, I've seen so many of the Biolantes, the Sofubi from Mondo's displayed with the box. It makes me feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I have it. Each one turned so that way the whole picture can be seen. It's awesome. And on another note too, even like with this box, it's first off, it's great to be getting a set of collectibles for AMA anyways, because that movie is very specifically Gabra is very under represented, I guess you would say, in as far as collectibles. So that's exciting. But even just the art alone, like Eric was saying, is awesome. And it was a minute one order for me when these came out.
Had I not, part of my deal with them is that I get a sample of each colorway of the toys, which is actually that's probably like the main reason that I
you gotta get the toys, man.
The check can take its time, but make sure the toys
Absolutely.
The money's cool. The money's cool, but I need my toys.
Right, exactly.
I need my toys first.
The fact that that these are going to be, I don't know, and I have no inside knowledge, but I think there will be, pretty sure there will be different colorways of these, which I'm fascinated to see, different materials and whatever they're going to do with these.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I had to put some more slides. I had to showcase a lot of your work, especially the Mondo posters, because I have every single one of these, and I just can't applaud you enough how amazing these posters are. Like immediately when like your first one dropped, and now granted, you've been kind of doing with Mondo for a long time actually. It's just not recently in the last couple of years that really Godzilla kind of took off, and people were really starting to sought after the posters and stuff like that. And I think that was kind of the launching point for really Mondo pushing all these Godzilla posters and stuff. But man alive, like this is just amazing to me. Could you just talk a little bit about each one of these designs a little bit, and just kind of what your thought process for maybe each one or a couple?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. I'll say right away, like I've never seen them all together like this, and it is kind of like I really have to pinch myself. This is like definitely, this and Star Wars are like my number 1 and 1A fandoms, and to be able to continue to work on this stuff is just it's stupid. But they didn't have, Mondo didn't have a whole lot of direction of. At first, the first Mondo poster I did for Godzilla was the original. I did that for a solo show I had in 2015, I think. And they didn't have the full license. They only had for that film. So I was like, hey, please do what you can, and I'd love to, continue this. And then when they got it, it was just pretty much whatever I wanted to do, which I'm so thankful that they gave me that, runway. Of these, the first one I think was Terror of Mechagodzilla.
Yes.
And then what we always did was, an English and a Japanese. And at first, the Japanese was the variant, and I think they realized that the Japanese should be the main edition, and then the English should be the. So at some point in this series, that flipped. But and I think after that probably was Invasion of Astro Monster. And that's probably still one of my favorites, just the way the composition set up. It's so hard to frame Ghidorah. And especially when you're trying to get other monsters in there. This came together like to do a sketch, like the stuff on the last few slides. A sketch composition will probably take me 2 days. And then the final render will take, after that's approved, will take about 6 to 7 days. But this composition for Astro Monster just came together in a night. It was just like everything just it's like I shouldn't say it wasn't finished in a night, but everything just like fell into place on that one.
Right.
Oh wow.
I want to say this as far as like sometimes I've noticed when artists because King Ghidorah, that's my favorite Godzilla villain by far, and sometimes I think something is always missing. I not always, but sometimes things seem missing or the proportions seem a little off when it comes to Ghidorah with a lot of people. But I think you captured it perfectly. And I'm not just saying that because you're here on our show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You didn't have to say that. And I think part of it for me, if I had to analyze it, I think the way, especially on that poster, the way the heads almost look like they're being, I don't know how they were manipulated in the film, but like it almost felt to me like the head was on a wire, and then the neck, the neck behind it. And I think that's kind of the approach I took on at least the two side heads.
And that's actually the point to me, especially with Showa Ghidorah, where he had the super floppy necks and heads. I feel like whenever somebody draws or does a Showa Ghidorah, it's very hard to do, but I think you nailed that exceptionally.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, and then at a certain point, I think it was after Terror of Mechagodzilla, we got access to the Japanese credit blocks, which to me makes these like Japanese editions so much more fun because you can play with the vertical type. And luckily they had Mondo had someone who was interpreting them and basically checking, like actually proofreading them and making. And somebody actually, I guess they would take an old poster. They had someone who could write, speak, and type Japanese, and then they would kind of convert it, send it to me. I drop it in, and then they check for accuracy. So I don't trust myself to do that.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't either.
Not on licensed products. If it's like fan art stuff, I can be like, well, it looks cool, but not on the real deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Which one?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, which one out of all these, which one took the longest? And which one were you? I think I know the answer because you may have just said it with the Astro Monster poster. Like, which one was the most fun for you to do? But which one of these was which took you the longest?
Well, I'm gonna say, and I don't recall, probably the Biologic, because there's just a lot of detail in her and just making sure all the tentacles and the composition so that all the tentacles feel like they're in a proper spot and wrapping around.
Yep.
And that would be tied with Hedorah, because if you notice the artwork changes from one to another. So that's always a struggle. I always struggle with that. My art director at Mondo at the time, Rob, he suggested an art swap for the variant, which always looks cool and it makes so much sense for this film, but it ups the render time by by a whole lot, because you got to like basically you can use maybe 30% of the first poster. The Godzilla is the same, and the background buildings are the same, but everything else changes, and so that probably took the longest.
Well, given the color scheme that you used for the Japanese variant, and then just like the film in general, it does make sense for that one to have a completely different arrangement.
That's something that I always grumble about. I'm like, oh my God, art swap. And then I look at it now and I'm like, I'm glad I don't remember that time now. Like, you know what I mean? It was like 3-4 years ago, and I'm happy I did.
Yeah, I think it's the one that kind of stands out, I think, the most out of all of them. I mean, they're all great and everything, but just because of that difference, it's so unique that it makes people want to have both, because obviously both transformations of Hedorah in that movie are obviously very important and stuff like that. But yeah, it's
so iconic. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is a total 10-year-old question, but I don't care. I'm gonna ask it. Which one's your favorite?
Ooh.
Like that you like out of all the ones that they're all beautiful, but which one are you like? Damn it, that one is just the best.
I'm gonna say, I think this could change tomorrow morning, but that acid green Biollante with the Japanese type, probably.
Oh, yes. Love that one.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question, because this is something that would always, when they would say, what do you want to do next? And I pick one. Mondo had no stipulations when I was working on a series like this, whether I keep it all portrait or all landscape or mix and match. And to me, as a collector, it probably would drive me nuts if the format kept switching. What's your takes on that? I was letting the composition drive, like, this should probably be horizontal. But what? Yeah, Michael, I see you giving me the eye. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so as someone who likes, like, I'm a little OCD when it comes to my posters.
Yep.
I like them all in portrait because I like to have them like all like gallery style around my workspace.
I get it. That's me too.
But I get it. I get, like, for like the Biollante poster and the Astro Monster poster, I get it why the orientation needed to change to benefit the composition. I prefer my posters to be all the same orientation, but that's just a nitpick of it. I don't think
that's me too. But I took the side door and let some of them go horizontal. I mean,
and I mean, to me, I'll answer as a collector, because they don't go the same way. It's harder for me to put them all on the wall.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, because if they don't go all the same way, then you have to, I got to stack like two, in the one area to kind of make sure that I utilize that area. Because, I mean, let's be honest, I have no room on my walls. I have figures and posters, and I have posters galore. And so it's like, I got to stack two, and then I got the ones, it's just collector wise, it's just a little bit harder because you want to display everything because they're gorgeous, but it's just not possible.
Yeah.
I guess I agree with Michael and Eric, but it doesn't. I'm not OCD, and I have so much that I'm kind of used to it being in that so much, meaning figures and posters and everything, that I'm kind of used to being in that position of, I'm just going to put this where it fits for the moment type of thing. I have 3 vertical posters right in front of me, and that's all I can fit on this wall right here in my office. However, now I could fit 2, maybe even 3 of the horizontal ones below them. And while they might not be eye level for somebody that's walking in, they're eye level for me when I'm in here streaming or recording or whatever. So it doesn't really bother me, I guess, but I'm probably the easiest Godzilla fan to buy to please, because I will literally buy anything and everything.
That's exactly where I'm at with toys. I don't stick to any scale. I don't stick to any brand. I don't stick to any style. If it speaks to me, buy it and fit, like make it fit with my other stuff. But I definitely understand
Yeah, I'm 1,000% the same way. I run out on day one and buy the $20 Playmates, Godzilla Kong, the new Empire stuff, just as fast as I run out and go buy the X Plus $300 figures. So,
and to Joe's point, if you love it enough, you're gonna make a place for it, right? It's like I'm not gonna skip a release simply because it's a horizontal and not portrait. It's like if the art I want it for the art, not necessarily I want it for the art. I'll find a place to put it. Even if it has to be framed and set in the floor for just a little bit until I can find a spot to put it.
But I think it's also important too. I forget who exactly said it, but I don't know if Astro Monster, the way that it's set up, would look right if it was vertical and not horizontal.
Right.
Does that make sense? I'm not a artistic guy. Like, I don't know the terminology of it, but
probably there are times when I'll start a poster portrait and it's just not working, and I'll take the same pieces and just reformat them landscape, and I'm like, it just everything lines up.
Yeah.
So I would probably have had to take a different approach on that poster.
Yeah.
You would have had to probably, the Exilians would be on the bottom, then Ghidorah, and then you would layer Ghidorah over that, and then Godzilla and Rodan would probably be over top of Ghidorah just to kind of get that orientation correct.
Yeah. And the reason I may have done a quick version like that, but this felt more like Ghidorah was a menace to when it took up that poster.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. Like if it was Rose Biollante, I feel like she could have been more horizontal because she almost seems like a more horizontal monster. Where adult Biollante or the crocodile version of Biollante, she seems she's wider and she's bigger and
that was actually now that you mentioned that was one of the directions on that poster was, why don't you do a variant of the Rose? And I was like, that's too much. That's just entirely too much work to get that converted to the Rose and have everything. That's an example of where that would have made a whole lot of sense. It was just way too time prohibitive.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we got some more. Kind of like what you showed with your roughed and your final form of the box art for Mothra. I threw that in here. Also, here is a laid out flat design box for the soft vinyl Biollante. Also, I just needed to showcase a bunch of these and just kind of your different art, because even the Mothras, it shows, I think it's just the standard and then the DX. Where there's two different versions. So, and obviously you see the Mothra larva and stuff. So
that was the only difference in the art, and then we just did a different color scheme for the for that version. And then, as you can tell, I got to reuse a lot of the build of Biollante for the toy box, and just the challenge that looked on the surface like a much quicker job, but to get those heads to line up on certain folds and different panels took longer than I thought, but and I got to do another whole color scheme, which was fun.
Exactly.
But that was so gratifying to see those come back and hold them in hand.
All right. So, and obviously I had to showcase this because this is brand new.
Love it.
Just announced by Mondo and everything, but closer look to your box for the AMA figures. I mean, like I said, not the biggest fan for myself, but I am so happy to get. I mean, I would buy all multiples and just to display the boxes in the different ways, because you have the sides, you have front and back. I mean, gosh, you even have the top. So, I mean, it's every single portion of that box is covered with art.
Yeah, thank you. And this was so much fun when I started it. If you noticed when you showed the rough draft, I used movie reference for the characters, and then when I actually saw roughs of the actual toys, it just made it so much more. I don't know. It just fit. It became so much more playful and the colors intertwined with that playful variations on them was just. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. And then I
can't
pictured
wait for
here
this.
with the
Can't
box
wait for
art,
this.
with the figures. So, I mean, I just had to show that off. I mean,
That's awesome. I don't even.
how gratifying is that just to,
It's
I mean,
crazy.
that's you, man.
It's crazy.
And you're getting them. So,
Yeah, I know. I didn't even see this. I didn't know they mocked that up like that.
yeah.
Very cool.
For the first time ever, I think Minya looks cute.
Yeah, really.
So true. So true. All right. So switching gears a little bit, because I myself am an Ultraman fan, and I just had to touch base on this. You did a commission, or you were commissioned to do some Ultraman art, and you did Ultraman and Ultra 7 for Nakatomi.
Yeah.
How did that come to be and everything?
So I used Tim Doyle at Nakatomi as my printer, and he manages a lot of music tours. Like, so he'll be like the artist who curates poster runs for bands. So in other words, he did a Metallica tour about 5 or 6 years ago, where he is in charge of like sourcing all of the artists, and then we all create a poster for Metallica for each night of their tour.
Oh wow.
So he occasionally has jobs for me in addition to being my print shop.
Okay.
And that's how this came about. He had some I don't know what he licensed Subaraya Ultraman designs and asked if I wanted to do he did a series of posters. So that's when I did the Ultraman ones, and then maybe 2-3 years later, he asked if I wanted to do Ultra 7 in the same vein, and then I was going to do the same composition, which I mean it is basically the same composition, but when we decided to flip it so that they line if you hang them, if you have the wall space to hang them together, the two Ultramen kind of stare at each other.
Yeah.
Dope Hope. It was my artwork was based off the sculpts for sure.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah, and this was this the first Subaraya like Ultraman work that you've worked on?
I did a series of pins.
Oh, okay.
I think this predated the pins. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will just say thank you very much for including Gamora, which is my favorite Ultra Kaiju.
Yes.
Everybody has a favorite, don't they? People are very precious about their favorite Ultra Kaiju.
Yes. And there's so many. I mean, there's literally hundreds of different ones.
I am like way far back as far as I don't know Ultraman nearly as well as I know Godzilla. I love it, but I just can't keep track of all the different iterations and kaiju.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like once you get to a point, it's almost like why even try to keep up, because they've gone so far. Right. And it's like there's so many monsters, so many different Ultramen. It's like it's hard to keep track. Like honestly, like I got into Ultraman probably I don't know 10 years ago or so, and I thought it was a very tasking thing to do, because I was like I was so new to it, and it's already been out since 66, and I was like, oh man, what am I getting myself into? And I just kind of fell in love with it, and then just slowly but surely kind of started at the beginning and worked my way up to, and I'm still working my way up to the actual recent series and stuff like that. But man, it's a crazy ride. It really is.
It really is. The stuff that I've seen, it really is. I feel like someone told me, maybe it was Attack Peter, said he was in Japan and said, you don't realize how big Ultraman is in Japan. Like he kind of got the feeling that Ultraman was bigger than Godzilla over there.
It is.
Honestly, that's what I've heard too. It's bigger than Godzilla.
Kind of blows my mind.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Ultraman?
The original. I kind of gravitate to. I love the design of Ultra 7 too.
Yeah.
That like ridge on the top of his helmet is
I'm in love with Ultraman Zero. I think he's just such a badass. I love that.
Now, see this. I'm going to expose myself here. How how recent is Ultraman Zero? I can't picture which one he is.
2015, I think.
No, it's not that new. It's I think it's 2010.
Okay.
2009, isn't it? Mega Monster. It's at least 10 or 15 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. He's kind of the
He's the son of Seven.
Yeah, he's the son
Okay.
of Ultraman 7, and he's kind of like they introduced him as like the newest big like Ultraman, but now
2009.
he's kind of like the bridge between the old and new generation, where he's becoming like what Ultraman was and Ultra 7 were to him. Now he's doing it for the new generation.
Okay.
So he's bridging the gap kind of thing between them. So
And he fights Ultraman Belial, which is the evil Ultraman. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I've seen him before, yeah, for sure.
yeah, he's pretty cool.
That's another one. I'm just throwing it out there. If you ever did an Ultraman or a Belial,
Well, maybe I'll throw this out there. There is another Ultraman project cooking.
Ooh, very awesome.
Right now. So
Okay.
just
Yeah.
leave it at that.
okay, all right.
Look
Pretty
forward to it.
He's telling us to be patient, boys.
Yeah. All right. So we kind of touched on this earlier with Michael asking about Ghost X Ghost. And yeah, so you did a shirt design and a poster for them.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. Like, I absolutely love both. I do have the poster, and like Joe and Michael has shown they have the poster also. But yeah, how was it working with Ghost X Ghost?
It's been great. Brock,
Yeah.
who runs that, used to work at Mondo, so I had a little bit of connection with him there, and he's great. He's great to work with. Very appreciative of the work, and kind of can see artist vision, and it's been really fun. Yeah, and those shirts came out. The printing on those is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous. I unfortunately did not get the shirt, but I got the poster, so
I got one. I should have worn it. I don't know what I was thinking.
Right. Oh my gosh. All right, moving on. And of course, your most recent work for Ghost X Ghost was GXK. And like you said, you had to work with the black background this time.
Yeah, but it kind of fits for this, especially for this movie. It kind of steers me in a little bit different direction color wise, where they almost become more fluorescent colors. And that was the first, when I got the style guide for this, that was the first I had seen Shimo. So like, what do I even do with this thing? How do I fit that in there? So
what did you I'm assuming, did you see GXK?
Oh yeah. My son and I went opening night. I loved it. I thought it was a ton of fun. And listen, you're asking about my favorite. If I had to pick a favorite, and it may be recency bias, -1 is just phenomenal.
Absolutely
phenomenal. It's probably it's the best film, the best Godzilla film. Okay, like I can recommend that to anyone. Like whether they love Godzilla, whether they hate science fiction, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I knew what I was getting with GXK.
Yep.
I went in knowing what I was getting, and I had a blast with it. Like there's room for all of it.
And I think we all did.
Yeah. We actually just did a live stream last week on GXK, and I don't understand the hate or the comparison that people are saying negatively, comparing it to -1. They're two totally different films. I mean, to me, GXK is like late Showa era, crazy, fun, colorful, like
feels like a 70s era Showa film. And
it does.
There's a lot of bullshit that doesn't make sense. Like him getting that glove, like the to be a glove sitting around, and they just
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm fully on board with where that goes next.
Yeah,
and I loved Godzilla 2014, and this is a world from where that movie started. But look at where, I don't know, Godzilla versus Megalon is compared to the 54 film. So
Exactly.
I don't know. I've lived with Godzilla my entire life and never had, I mean, the original is fantastic, but -1 is just so, to me, so wonderful, and it's perfect. And to have that and then have this a couple months after it, it's like we're eating well.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always say I think -1 is the most perfect Godzilla film probably since the original.
Yeah, definitely.
And it one of our other co-hosts, Adrian, his famous line is "More Godzilla is best Godzilla." So I think it's great that we're getting something as serious and as dark as -1, but I also think it's great we're getting something as fun, blockbuster, turn your brain off as GXK. Because sometimes that heavy stuff, it's just you can't watch it all the time. You want to,
it's too much.
Yeah, it's too much. You want to watch something where you can have fun.
And
that's exactly what GXK is.
If you look at what's going on right now, too, you zoom out, like GXK did huge box office.
Yeah.
-1 just won an Oscar. Like it's such a good time right now. Like it's so like what I'm saying is enjoy it right now, because obviously nothing lasts forever, but this is such like a renaissance of such a good time for
absolutely.
And I mean, like we touched on earlier, you talked about, growing up, there wasn't a lot of Godzilla stuff. We grew up, in the early 90s and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of stuff either. Like we call it kind of the dark ages for being a Godzilla fan, honestly. And it's just like, I think people just forget about that or didn't experience, and just people like us appreciate, even though how wacky and out of this world the stuff is, we appreciate it and still love it and want more of it, because we've gone through that time, and it's okay to have two different things and still love it.
It's pretty ballsy that that they're releasing these so close to each other. I know technically Toho has the kill switch for all of it, but it's funny you mentioned about what, like, the lack of content in the 90s. I remember I worked at McDonald's in high school. I can remember a Saturday distinctly sitting in the break room going through the local paper, and there was a little tiny paragraph, like a blurb, about Space Godzilla, because that was what, 94, so
94,
40th anniversary, right?
Yep.
40. Oh, and I remember seeing a picture, like, to celebrate Godzilla's 40th anniversary, they released Space Godzilla. I'm like, wait a minute, you're telling, because I had been out of it for years.
Yeah.
Telling me they're still making those? And that's when I probably right around the same time I found G-Fan, and I started ordering like bootleg VHS from the back of that. And I've never slowed down since. But I can remember the pure joy of finding out that the Heisei movies existed.
Yes.
So much fun.
It's so funny you say that, because I actually found out about the Heisei movies besides Godzilla vs. Biollante. Everything else I found out on the Godzilla Virtual Tour CD-ROM that you could put on Mac, and you put it in your computer, and it was just a virtual tour of this like amusement park. And they actually had clips from those movies.
Oh my God.
The first time I saw it, I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, I've never seen these movies.
Because I remember that experience. I think I may have rented Biollante from Blockbuster. That was available. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like, it was such a jump from last thing. Well, I did see 85 in theaters, but I didn't know. But even Biollante is a jump from that, just design wise. That was such an exciting like feeling to know that there was like another block that I hadn't discovered yet.
Yeah. And once I found that out, I was on a mission to find out where these movies were, how I could get them. And I mean, the hunt was on, because there was nothing around my area and stuff like that. It was just like, oh my gosh, how do I find this? And the internet was early stages and everything. I didn't have a computer. I mean, you were the bougie one if you had a computer at the time, honestly. Like not everybody had them, and the internet and stuff like that. So like, it was hard for me to track down, and eventually I did, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't even know all this stuff had already come out years ago. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But all right, so this is pretty exciting too. You have done 2 covers for IDW recently. One is for the Godzilla Rivals Mothra versus Mogera, and the one that is coming out in, I think, about a month or so is the Godzilla 70th issue. Tell us a little bit how you came on these and everything.
So I have made a habit of, if I see something that I'm really enjoying, I'll just cold call the company. This is in the last couple years. And I'll be like, hey, I love what you're doing. If you have room, I'd love to get involved.
Yeah.
And I was reading Godzilla, and I'm blanking on IDW is, I think there's like 2 issues left. It's hang on. I don't want to mispronounce the War for Humanity.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
That book is, I love it. It's so good. So I just reached out to the editor, and he said that he thought I said, if you ever have need for variant covers, let me know. And they didn't have an opening for that, but then I got these 2 as a result of that conversation.
That is so awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I love that the 70th one is just all Showa. Like, it's just a compilation of him and some of his villains or allies and stuff like that. And I think it's like it's going to be a like almost super rare edition. I can't remember the 1 of 1 or the 1 of like 50 or something.
Yeah, it's because I asked how many. Usually I'll get 25 to 30 copies of a cover, and I think I'm only getting 5 of these because it's a super rare cover.
Yeah.
And that was great too. They were like, do whatever you want. I'm like, there's no stipulations. So I said, what if I did every since it's the 70th, what if I did every 70s era monster? And they're like, yeah, that's
sure.
Yeah.
I'm down.
You do you.
Yeah, right. That was super fun.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. Like, has anybody ever approached you about like doing your whole complete comic, or would you want to do your whole complete comic?
No, I am so slow with sequential work. It's just it would bog me down, and I couldn't make it like cost effective.
Yeah.
I'm firmly thrilled to be able to be doing single images, and I don't know how Matt Frank does like the level of detail that he gets into pieces and pulls that off in a sequential format. He's fantastic.
Yeah, Rulers of Earth is the prime example of that, and like his work is fantastic.
Yeah, he's so good. He's got such a feel for all of like he can just nail like any angle, any perspective on any of the suits, and make it so exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there I'm curious, is there a difference in how you design these between like box art, comic, poster? Like, is it all pretty basic, or is there, you got to think of it differently because they're being represented differently?
Yeah, I think it probably, I always like to see what the actual format is. Like we were talking about earlier, a poster I can do horizontal or vertical. Mm-hmm. When it comes to these, you're pretty much locked into a portrait format. So
gotcha.
you don't have a whole lot of leeway as far as.
So, and you have like a list a mile long of IPs that you have done work for, which is hats off to you. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, you've done Marvel, DC, Disney,
Transformers.
Transformers. I mean, the list could go on and on.
Pixar.
Like it's ridiculous. Is there an IP that you haven't done that you would just love to do?
Wow. I have not done a lot of DC work. I would love to do some DC
Okay.
cover work. That's pretty much. I would love to do some Planet of the Apes stuff.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Even the vintage, like I could like that color scheme for the Godzilla 70th anniversary just screams Planet of the Apes to me. It just has that like dusty feel. Those would definitely be fun.
Damn dirty apes.
Yeah. I just feel super fortunate to be able to field all these requests I get for this kind of work. It really is silly that I get to do all this stuff.
I'd love to see you do like Pacific Rim or Power Rangers.
Yeah. Well, I did do a lot of Power Rangers actually. I did.
What? I was not aware of that.
I never did. The
Lightning Collection, Joe. The Lightning Collection.
No,
Joe.
I meant like posters and
poster.
no, I have the Lightning Collection. Listen here, Michael. I meant like
I hear you. I would love to
seasonal posters
and revisit that and kind of do some posters in that vein.
Yes. I actually have that box.
This was an unbelievable experience to do these. That was like the longest running project I've ever worked on. I think it was like 4 years.
Oh wow.
So much fun.
And I remember when Hasbro moved away from your artwork, and I think I said something to you online. I was like, well, it's kind of like the end of an era, because that's what made the Lightning Collection so special was your artwork. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but it's like that is literally what, like, for people who collected this line, that's one of the reasons why it made it so special for us, is because all the artwork was consistently good.
I appreciate that. And I would never put this in the same vein, but like I know that nostalgia of the original Star Wars cards with the silver border and that format that they had still appeals to me. And if I'm collecting something in box, I want it to be all the same. And I had so many people reach out to me after they moved away, when they moved away from it. It felt really good to know people really appreciated it.
See, I've never seen those Power Morphicon. Were those prints or were those posters?
Those were, I think they were like 12 by 18 posters that they were giving out at the convention 2 years ago.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I have that. I have both of the. I have the villains and the Rangers posters.
That's very cool. Yeah, see, I did not know that they did that.
Yeah, so if anybody's interested, right now I am on strongstuff.net. You can check out Tom's website, showcases all of his, or most of his work. Maybe not all of it because he does so much, but for the most part, it's all here.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And there's a couple pages I've been, like, you can only put 100 images on that front page. And I have to, every time I put a new one up, I have to like figure out what goes to the next page. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we don't want to keep you too long. Michael, Joe, is there any last questions you want to ask Tom before we say goodbye?
I'm going to ask him the same question I asked Dope. Any advice, words of wisdom to people who want to be in the position you're in?
Keep practicing or keep doing what you love and putting it out there. And I always say I had so much luck with social media. Now I know it was a different era when I first got started, like 10, 15 years ago, but just getting it in front of people's eyes and getting response to it and doing shows, doing like comic shows, even on like a grassroots level, just to make a connection and get your work out there. It's just get it in front of eyeballs.
Absolutely.
Well, first off, I guess I would have to ask, and this is probably the obvious question: is there any hint you can give us on what's next?
Oh boy, there is
that won't get you in trouble.
No, I'm not going to get in trouble. There's something I am super excited about that is a little outside the box. It is definitely it's Godzilla licensed.
Oh, yes.
It's an expansive thing that I'm working on. I hope you can tell what it is when it's revealed, but I hope you can refer back to this. Oh, that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it going to be revealed soon?
I don't know. This year.
Okay.
Do you take PayPal? Because I will I will send it over right now.
It's outside the box, and I'm super excited about it, and it's really fun. So a little different than what I've been doing, but Toho approved, and I'm excited. I hope that teases enough, and that's all I'm gonna say at this point.
It makes me excited. Thank you for the little exclusive teaser. That was very cool.
Well, yeah, that's the first I've spoken about it.
Dope Hope just had a quick question. Are you going to be at Monster Palooza or G-Fest?
No, unfortunately, Monster Palooza, I think is that the one in New York? I think that interferes with.
Yes, I believe Monster Palooza is in New York. Yeah,
I was fully ready to book that, and I have something else going on that weekend. And same with G-Fest. I think that's the weekend of Blobfest. The Colonial Theater, which is where they filmed the Blob in the 50s.
Yes, the Blobfest. Yes. Okay. I know what you're talking about.
I used to live before we moved here 3 years ago. I lived like a couple minutes away from. No, I have to look at Monster Palooza then. I'm not. I'll look that up if it's in Pasadena. So I did a lot of work for the Colonial Theater just as I was getting started, and I always credit them as giving me the runway to do a poster series for them that kind of got me noticed by Mondo. So now they hired me to do their 50th or 25th anniversary Blobfest, which is like a festival that celebrates the Blob every summer, and that's what I think that was the weekend of G-Fest.
And they still have. Is it right? They still have. They bring out the bucket of the original like goo, and you can touch it. I think it's
has a plexi thing over it now because it would have dried out by this point. But they definitely have a real still piece of the Blob like airtight sealed in a bucket. Yeah. Oh, wow. It's very cool.
How about New York Comic-Con?
No, I will not be in New York this year. I used to do that, and then I had back issues, and I was like, that was such a backbreaking, literally, event to get in and out of. I will be doing San Diego this year, so I don't know if Dope's going to be at that, but
right on.
Yeah.
All right, I think that'll do it. Tom, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I mean, we were fanboying about this before you got on. I've been fanboying about this ever since I sent the message to you. I mean, you have no idea how much excited.
Can I just say he called me when you said yes, and I thought he was like a 12-year-old girl that just got asked to his like first dance or something. He was so freaking excited.
Well,
and I couldn't even get it out. He's like, he said yes. And I'm like, who said yes?
Well, I've never had that reaction from a girl in grade school, so I appreciate every bit of effort you put into that, Eric.
We were like, well, I hope you bought him dinner first, Eric. That's all I
Yeah, so I think that'll do it for us. Like I said, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Michael, as always. You can catch us on Monsters with Attitudes. Check out all of our socials and stuff like that. Tom, do you want to plug anything before we head out of here?
Just my website is strongstuff.net. Instagram is @strongstuff, and Twitter is @strongstufftom. You can see I do a pretty decent job of trying to keep them up to date of everything that's releasing or has just come out. So
Yeah, I'm obviously excited about the upcoming Godzilla project, so cannot wait for that, obviously. But yeah, thank you again. Appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who tuned in or will tune in later on. This has been a blast. So thank you, thank you. Hopefully we have you back again, and we'll talk
I
some
would love
more Godzilla stuff.
Just hang. I'm fine.
Yep, exactly. Just hang.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Tom.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Tom. Appreciate you, man.
All right, guys. I think we'll call it. So good night, everybody. See you later.
Good night, guys.